Hello YouTube, Bane666 here. Welcome to Propaganda of Toxic Feminism, the series in which I expose and debunk falsehoods, misconceptions, and outright lies spread about the men's rights movement. So let's get stuck into it. Okay, so let's continue from where we left off last time.
The cases where women actually, take no for an answer are a lot higher than men. This is also part of the patriarchy because men feel entitled that if they act certain ways or are, quote-unquote, stereotypically badass, they'll get the woman.
Well, isn't this interesting? Because before he was saying that guys act like the quote-unquote nice guy to try to get women, and now he's saying that the exact same guys act like badasses to get women. And as far as I can tell, they're not exactly the same thing, are they? Personally, I'd consider them to be polar opposites. The nice guy and the bad guy, yeah, aren't really the same thing now, are they? You seem to be getting your argument just a little bit confused here. The other thing he seems to be completely missing is, as I mentioned in the previous video, the social expectation is that males make the first move. And this, of course, takes a certain degree of confidence in the individual male. Therefore, males who are more confident are more likely to talk to more women. And quite often there can be a very thin line between confidence and arrogance. So you could speculate that maybe the majority of guys women come in contact with in the dating scene are more confident and quite possibly more arrogant, which is why they're less likely to take no for an answer. If this is in fact the case, then it wouldn't really be a proper representation of all males, now would it? Just something to think about. And of course he's yet to actually talk about one actual men's rights issue. We're still talking about dating issues. Unfortunately. But let's continue next.
That's part of the patriarchy. It's not necessarily something that a lot of men think about, like, yeah, I'm a patriarch. No, but it's something that's just, inserted in our heads that we have to follow in order to be quote-unquote real men. And that's
It's like how a person wanting to go to a woman is inserted in someone's head if they decide themselves to go after the woman.
Yeah, could you repeat that? Sorry, I was coughing.
Okay. So how can, a person wanting to go with a woman really badly and want to be aggressive, it gets inserted in their head, even though they chose themselves to go after the woman?
Well, the problem here is that there's this sense of entitlement, like I was talking about. Most men feel that women are basically carnage. They're like this selection of meat that they can grab from.
Really? Most men look upon women as a selection of meat that they can grab from. Yeah, that's not the least bit insulting, is it? No, not at all.
And if they, for example, I like, brunettes, and this is a problem of categorization where most men think, oh, okay, these are the types of women, they have prejudices. For example, the typical blonde rich girl is going to obviously ignore them because of stereotypical values. The problem I have here is a lot of MRAs tend to follow this. I know probably I'm going to get into...
What kind of example? What MRAs to self-identify as such?
Oh my god, Zoe Quinn?
But Zoe Quinn is a feminist.
No. I mean, the Zoe Quinn, the Quinspiracy, if you will. She had sex with multiple men, according to reports, and the men jumped on it in first stance, like, using words like whore, slut, instead of actually criticizing her.
But how do you know that they're men's rights activists if you don't say that they are?
They are men's rights activists, the ones.
But how do you know?
Because they're on YouTube, they're on the internet. You can see millions of articles. Just look it up.
So all the requirement for you to be an MRA is to be a male on YouTube and to call a woman a slut. You don't need to actually advocate for the rights of men. You just need to be a misogynist. Wow, who knew it was so simple? And here I've been trying to spread awareness about actual issues. Boy, do I feel silly.
So you seem to me at least generalize the people that attack her and just smear them as MRAs without telling me like how they are men's rights activists.
They're men's rights activists because they criticize the fact that she's a woman and is sexually liberated.
And here we have a little bit of a straw man. Let me give you a scenario. Now, if a random person on the street were to give another random person on the street an envelope containing $10,000, that's none of my business. As long as it's not my money, of course. But, provided it's their own money and they're giving that money of their own free will to another individual, it is their business and absolutely none of mine. However, if the exact same scenario happened, only the money was given to, say, a politician or a journalist to think a certain way, then suddenly it does become my business, because that's what's known as a bribe. Now, we can say exactly the same thing about sex. Some random woman or male on the street deciding to sleep with another random woman or male, or random women or men, isn't any of my business. I personally don't give a shit what other people do with their sex lives. It's their body, their life, their choice. But if someone is using sex as a bribe, then it does become my concern. It becomes the concern of everyone who doesn't want corruption in journalism. And although I'm a Gamergate supporter, personally I don't think it goes far enough, because yes, there is obviously corruption in gaming journalism, but as we'll see soon, that corruption is spread right across the board, not just in gaming journalism. Next.
But anybody can criticize a woman, not just men.
Of course, but I'm talking about them specifically, not in general. I mean, sure, a lot of men do consider if a woman has sex with a lot of men, she's a slut, and if a man has sex with a lot of women, he's a stud. But men's rights activists seem to focus on the fact that if a woman is sexually liberated, she's a slut.
Really? Which men's rights activists? Name them. Because I guarantee you were talking about pickup artists and trolls. Next.
And this is called slut shaming. And this is something they talk about extensively. Even the Amazing Atheist did a video on this, and it's ridiculous. It's something that people don't understand is she's a human being, and despite of whatever she did sexually or what she didn't do, she's still a human being. And they're focusing on the sex acts and not on her as an actual human being. If they criticized her work, like some of them did, okay, I would be fine with it. But the problem is their focus is on her being a woman, being sexually liberated. The problem is,
once again, she used sex as a bribe, therefore it's open for debate. If she was just some woman who had slept with 5 guys behind her boyfriend's back, no one would give a shit. It was the fact that she did it with journalists as a bribe.
They focus on her being a woman, not a human being. You kind of know where I'm getting at?
Yeah, I understand the people who are attacking her are in the wrong for that. But my question is, how do you know each and every one of those individuals self-identify as a men's rights activist? It seems as though, at least from my experience anyway, Like, there's a difference between like people who self-identify as men's rights activists and those who are part of what is known as the manosphere. Like, the manosphere have people like MGTOW people, as well as neo-masculines, as well as the red pill people and the pickup artists, who happen to have this misogynist attitude towards women, like they think that women should owe them something. So how can you say like those people are men's rights activists when it seems as though they don't even identify as such?
But I wasn't specifically referring to them. I was just, maybe I got confused during the talk, but I was specifically talking about the ones that attacked Zoe Quinn, and I was talking about how men's rights activists follow these specific guidelines in order to...
So, in other words, he has no fucking idea what he's talking about at all. And this is the problem we constantly come across. We constantly get associated with any troll, anyone who might be considered a misogynist, the pickup artists. For example, earlier this year when a non-MRA wrote an article for a pickup artist site saying that he personally didn't want to go to see Mad Max because he thought it was feminist propaganda, we had the feminist media reported as all MRAs across the board boycotting Mad Max. And of course, this was bullshit. And then there was Roosh V, the pickup artist, writing an article saying that he wanted to make rape legal on private property, which he later said was satire, if I remember correctly. Personally, I think it was just clickbait to try to get people coming to his site and to stir up controversy. But of course, once again, the feminist media reported it across the board as men's rights activists wanting to make rape legal. Isn't that wonderful? I can't imagine why we would have a problem with feminism. I just can't think why we would have a problem with a group of people, mainstream feminists, by the way, we're talking about. Not 14-year-olds on Tumblr who haven't learned how to use logic yet. We're talking about mainstream feminist journalism spreading nothing but bullshit and lies. Can't imagine why we'd have a problem with it. And then, of course, there's the constant association with Menonism, which is, of course, a parody of feminism, which is not part of the men's rights movement. But, of course, we're constantly associated with that. I mean, why wouldn't we be? The two groups aren't the same, have different goals. One's a parody and one's a human rights movement. But why wouldn't you put them together? I mean, it's great propaganda, isn't it? To, try to pull one down by falsely associating the two together. And then we come across the latest piece of bullshit, which is just out this week. Now, no doubt you'll all know that there was another shooting. The guy's name was Chris Harper Mercer. And now he's being associated with the men's rights movement. I mean, this was just so fucking predictable. So what's the smoking gun? What's the big piece of evidence that they have that Mercer was a member of the men's rights movement? Well, apparently, someone anonymously left a message on 4chan saying, some of you guys are alright, don't go to school tomorrow if you are in the northwest. Happening thread will be posted tomorrow morning. So long, space robots. Now, this may or may not be Mercer. There's no evidence either way. It sounds like it possibly might be him, but it's definitely not proven to be him. And apparently a small group of people replied to it, and some of them used the term beta, as in beta male, which is a term used by pickup artists. And apparently that's proof that he was an active MRA or influenced by the men's rights movement. Wow. Isn't that correct?